Welcome to this community series video produced by Inner West Library. Before anything else, I want to acknowledge the Gadigal and Wangal people of the Eora Nation, on whose land this series is produced, and to show my respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and to all First Australians with us today. Most of the very famous artists written about in our art collection have used sketchbooks, whether to plan their works as Leonardo da Vinci in his numerous studies for painting and inventions, or to capture moments as Turner in his Channel sketchbook. In this series over a few sessions, local artists will open their sketchbooks to us. Thank you very much for their generosity, and I hope that you will enjoy flipping through the pages with them.
I think I started seriously considering myself as artist instead of just hobbyist in about 1976 when I was living in Holland. Started working in quite hard edge colour gradations just as an exercise, and got fascinated with it, particularly a particular motif of a 2 centimetre square with a diagonal with a circle in the middle, and that kept me occupied, I think, for the next 18 months really. So, and then back in Australia, I kept the artwork going. I think the European thing, because in that time people like Bridget Riley were working, and I was fascinated by the ramifications, the variations that can happen within quite a limited range of elements. The sketchbooks are more about the idea rather than capturing an image in the moment. And I think I really admire people who can go out with a sketchbook and sketch something and capture the moment, but that's not the way I work generally. So I can show you the development of a couple of the ideas that have happened over the years. This is a circular set, which a number of studies I did around circles. That then led to a series of works with circles and distortions, where I either moved the way in which the lines related to the centre and the outside, or I shifted the focus of the circle inside, as happens there. So it's layered work. And then I started working with cutouts, and that was good fun. And the dynamic is the dynamic is that moire pattern that happens with lines that interact with each other. So here we have one page where it's cut out, another page with just the pattern. So that's pretty well that. And then more recently, I've worked with the interaction of two lines within a certain set of rules. So, and this series I call the Meander series. It started with a couple of concertina books, which I no longer have, but it's to do with a straight line, a line which moves, another straight line, a line which dips, and that interacts on two levels. So I was playing with that idea with textures, in this case the texture of the very finely drawn lines, which is something that happens in my work quite frequently, this business of drawing lines that are quite fine. So yes.
Yes, it's very much the place of your prototypes.
Yes, yes. I think that's about it as far as the meander, apart from the actual work that happened.
Hello, my name's Liz, and I'm very happy to share with you today the joys that I've discovered through sketching. I brought some sketchbooks I'd love to share with you. I started painting and with watercolours when I was in the bush, because I loved sitting in the bush and being deeply present to everything that was around. I just loved sitting there and appreciating the light and trying to catch it, or the feeling, even the sounds or the sense of the breeze would all come into the painting experience for me. And then looking back at them over the years, it's like I can almost remember, well, I can. It's like my body remembers that whole lovely moment, and it's as fresh as it was when I experienced it. So this is a little sketchbook that I have, which I carry with me into the bush, and I just put the colours at the beginning of the sketchbook, so that I kind of like to have a beginning of that, but it also reminds me of what colours I've got in my kit. And I have a small kit which is basically not much bigger than this book, and it all fits into a little pouch which just fits in my backpack. And when I go, I'll do things that might be very quick. It might just be a moment that I see some mangroves by a river stream, and if it catches my eye, I will just sit down and very quickly put some colour into the paper just to get the feeling of that moment. If something doesn't work out, I will white it out and often put another sketch in on top of it. This is when I was visiting my friends in the Northern Territory, and they were taking me for a drive, and we drove past this amazing landscape, and I just loved the way the trees were like tiny sculptures, and I kept it in my mind, and when I came home I sketched it up. Still out there, this was the McDonald Ranges. And again, it was more that I just wanted to sit there for a while and take in the feeling of the place. And as I do that, I often get kind of a feeling of words coming to me, so I often write something as well. And in this case, I just wrote, "The silence hums, stretching the awareness beyond the known." I was in the bush around Sydney Sandstone, and one morning I went out and there was just this mist and fog, and it just created, again, I didn't want to paint the whole scene, I just wanted to remember that light and the mist. So even though it's not contextualised, it's just catching that light for me, and I still remember seeing that lovely mist in the sandstone. This is a sketch of Cockatoo Island, which is near home, and again, just enjoyed sitting there in that old place. Again, this was New Zealand, where I had to go for a work. And I was with a conference group, so I didn't have much time, but they took us, one of the leaders took us through a little bushwalk, and I just stopped very quickly, but I just did a quick pen and ink sketch. And when I came home, I just filled in the colours around it just to have that memory, because it was such a beautiful beach forest. Then I went bushwalking down in Stewart Island, and again took my little backpack. It rains a lot down there, so I had it in a little plastic bag. Would stop and just do sketches. There was this beautiful tree coming out of the island landscape, the rocks. I was walking by myself, and there was a woman who was obviously by herself too, and we just looked at each other and she spoke to me. Then this happened. "Today I met a woman from Amsterdam. we talked of ancient forests and silent things. Quite by chance and from a space inside, she told me she had cried every day to be here. It's so old and huge, and I am so small. It's a good feeling, she said. And I remember being so touched by her openness and directness to me. And then here we are back at the pub that evening, and I'm sitting there with my fish and chips and a jug of beer. And I'm looking out at all the little ferry boats. And so I paint that. Well, I'm by myself, I'm having dinner by myself, so I sketch. And of course people come and talk to you, and they want to see your paintings, and they want to ask you about painting, and it's lovely. It provides a lovely social interaction. And once I'd sort of got the hang of it, I started to think that this was a good way of going, what you do when you travel too. Had family in England, so would often go back there to visit them. And this is an afternoon sitting and having a cup of tea in a little cafe on the Thames River up at Richmond. And it was just a beautiful summer's day. And just little paintings of little villages and down in the south coast. And sometimes I'd start painting and it would rain, and then that's all I'd get done. But then I would leave it like that and I'd think, oh, I remember that day. As I said, it doesn't really matter so much what it turns out like. It's nice when it turns out, but it doesn't have to turn out. It can just be, oh, I remember that day when I sat there and it rained. And this was the day that it was my partner's birthday, and we were going to Kensington Gardens for afternoon tea. And I'm not very good at people, but I had a go at painting her. And this was in Scotland. And what happens is I do these little sketches, and then I kind of think, oh, that worked quite well. And I've bought a pack of postcards, blank postcards. Then I will do a painting like that in my sketchbook. Oh, that goes quite well. And then I'll paint it over and over again, like 20 of them, and send them off to people as their postcards. And people love them. They really love getting a hand-painted postcard. And I'm very touched that frequently I go to my friends' houses and they framed them, or they're sticking on their fridge or something like that. It's quite lovely. And this is what I sometimes do when paintings don't work out. I'll put something over them like that. So I'll scrub it out and put another little drawing over it. And one of my favourite places to walk was the lakes. And I just love being up there. And I wrote this. I came to rumble here around the craggy hilltop, to rumble around inside myself, to let the chill of mountain air inhabit me, blow around the stale internal cavities, to breathe so the wide, high, open spaces can know it all and meet the shape of me, and in meeting become. And then for a bit of fun, we went to Beatrix Potter, and so here's Jemina Puddle Duck, copied from her books, but I so enjoyed copying Jemina Puddle Duck and doing an ode to Wordsworth with some daffodil paintings, and the painting from the little place we were staying in from the window, and listen to some music in a church and so forth, and little houses. So thank you so much, and I do hope you enjoy watercolour painting and sketching in whatever way it works for you.